Hello, my loves, and welcome back to episode 4 of our weekly homeschool vlog. Now, I say weekly, but it has been a week or two since I've last shared. It's been a full couple of weeks. I have been navigating my own things that have been coming up and processing some old stories and beliefs and narratives that have arisen for me personally. And I've got to enjoy the birthday celebration of my eldest son and of some friends too. So it's been a really beautiful and transformative and full couple of weeks. So we're just getting back into the homeschool vlogs now. I have so much to share. And as I was sitting down preparing to do this recording, I was thinking about how it just feels as if I'm doing an audio recording to a friend or even just self-reflection for myself. So I really like that style. I really like the casual nature of it. And if you are back to watch what we share, I am glad and I'm happy to see you here. Okay, so now, as I said, we celebrated my eldest son Finn's 6th birthday last week. This week has felt so strange in regards to time. I think it was last week. And this is a really fun story and something that really stretched me. And I'm just going to start by telling this story and saying that for his birthday, he essentially got a PlayStation 5. Now, that seems like a really big present for a 6-year-old, but it has a backstory to it. And I think that the backstory makes it a really beautiful experience for me and for him and for our whole family, to be honest. So one thing about my eldest son is he is so into all things technology. And it truly is who he is. You know, we all definitely are influenced by our environment, by the people we spend our time with, you know, by our upbringing, all the things, right? We are influenced by our environment, but we also come here with our own innate personalities, our own innate likes and dislikes and preferences and curiosities and passions and interests. And for him, ever since he was a baby, he's just been so genuinely interested in all things technology. So, for example, when he was really young, he used to be completely fascinated by his baby monitor and not just the camera that was attached to his cot, but then also the actual little monitor screen and, you know, figuring out how to turn it on and how to change settings. And then it would go to something else. Like we used to have a robo vacuum cleaner that used to just vacuum the house. And he was so fascinated by that. He used to talk about it all the time. He'd take pictures of it. He'd always be so curious about when it was on and what it was doing. It was just something that he was always so interested in. And even when he was a toddler, he was so fascinated by our printer. So he would always go into the study. He would look at the printer. He would turn it on and off. He'd want to print things just to enjoy the fact that it was printing. It is just truly always been a part of who he is. And naturally over time, that has translated to, you know, interest in video games. Now, the whole screen time topic is something that I find a little bit challenging to navigate as a parent. I personally have certain boundaries around screens and using screens, and I suppose I more or less have opinions about it. And so I've always tried to implement really healthy boundaries and routines with screens for my children, you know, and it's such a personal preference and it really is always what works for you and your family. But from young, I would never just have the TV on. I didn't put any shows on TV for Finn to watch till he was almost 1 year old. And even then it was dribs and drabs of the Wiggles or something like that, you know. And, you know, just in general life, we just would not have the TV on until the afternoon, maybe after his afternoon nap or once he dropped that nap during that afternoon period. We really tried to use it scarcely where we could because I just didn't want that to be the center of his day. And, you know, that worked well for us and we constantly evolved, you know, what the boundaries were for screen time for us and our family. Now, as I said, as he's gotten older, he's become more and more interested in it. He's gone for sleepovers at his like uncle's house, and his uncle's a gamer, and so he sees that and he's like, oh, that's really cool. And also he idolizes his uncle. Shout out Uncle Josh. He's his favorite person in the world. And and I too was a gamer growing up. Like I played a lot of video games and I loved it. And I still do occasionally, but it's definitely not a high priority for me now. Anyway, so he's seen all this, he loves it, he's very into it, and he's been talking for quite a while about wanting to get a certain console in our house. Like he was talking about a Nintendo Switch or a PlayStation 5. And we decided that we were going to make it part of I guess, a project he could work towards. Twofold. We incorporated a more non-physical energetic component of, well, this is part of how you manifest something, right? And I got to talk about manifestation with him. I got to talk about the importance of the feeling state that you vibrate at, and the importance of your perspective and the thoughts you're choosing to think around a certain topic. And so we talked about that, and we talked about how, like, if you are desiring to manifest something, holding it with excitement and having, the thoughts around it about, like, instead of focusing on, oh, why don't I have this? I really want this, and that really negative energy, shifting that into a more positive and that excitement for that thing, and also an acceptance that it will be so. And so we got to explore that with him. And then we also got to explore there are ways we can support the manifestations coming into form on a physical level. And that can look like, for example, and we talked about different ways that you can create what you need to receive what you're desiring. So for example, if you want a PlayStation, well, the exchange for a PlayStation is money. So that is the agreed upon exchange. And we talked about that's the agreed upon exchange for most things in our world, is money. So we looked at how much a PlayStation would cost. It was around $800 for, I think that was around, for a PlayStation with a controller. I don't even know that it came with a game, but it was around $800. And we said, okay, we will go you halves. If you can raise half of the money, we will raise the other half, and we will go halves with you, basically. And so we went through the process of counting his money box, which was a fantastic math lesson for exploring coins. We got to separate the coins into all their little piles, all your $1, all your $2, and then we got to count them all and we got to add them together. He really enjoyed getting to use the calculator as well to add them together, because obviously it got to large numbers and he is just not there. He is 6. So it was fun for him to explore the calculator. And then we talked about different ways he could, or different activities he could do to earn money. And one of the things we talked about doing was, we have chickens. Obviously our chickens lay eggs, and we often gift those eggs to family and friends. And so we decided to sell the eggs rather than just gift them. We love the fact that we can give the eggs to our family and friends, purely for the fact that we can do it, right? Like just the joy of being able to give to them. But we talked to Finn about, okay, well, if you help like feed the chickens, collect their eggs, give them water, and, sell the eggs and whatnot, you can keep the money. And he also understood that the money he received from the eggs would then have to partly go into chicken feed as well. So it was a really good life experience for him. So once he figured out how much money he had and how much money he needed to earn, he recorded a video that we sent to family to explain what we were now doing regarding the eggs, and that if they would still like eggs, we're asking for a donation that, or an exchange rather, that can go towards Finn raising money for the PlayStation. So over the course, he absolutely put in the work every day. He was going over and feeding the chickens. He was collecting the eggs. He was helping his dad clean out the chicken coop. He was really putting in the work to earn what he desired. And it was really beautiful to watch. And honestly, so hilarious, because also then some family members would just give him donations towards the PlayStation, which again, I really credit to his manifestation skills too. He's such a powerful manifester. the time rolls around like about a week before his birthday, and we count his money box, and he had raised $347. He had $347 in his money box. He was almost at 400, and I almost could not believe how quickly he had accumulated the money that he needed. And here's the funny part of this story. I love this part because upon reflection, it makes me laugh at myself. We talked about, okay, well, maybe for his birthday, we give him the $400. We'll make a little gift voucher and give him a $400 gift voucher to match the money so that on his birthday, he can go and buy the PlayStation himself. So not just us buying him a PlayStation, being like, well, we see that you earned the money, so here we got it for you, but getting to have the experience of, hey, I've received this amount of money. Wait a minute, this plus this is enough money. On my birthday, I would love to go and use that money to purchase the PlayStation and have the experience or the reward, I suppose, of getting to see the work he put in and the energy he put in turn into this beautiful creation. So we began talking about doing that, and I had initial resistance. I actually felt a lot of resistance to doing it because it makes me laugh so much. Because in my head, I thought, well, no, it hasn't been long enough. Like, he hasn't had to work hard enough to get to that point. Like, it should take him a good couple of months so he really learns a lesson. The reason why I find that so funny is because I am such a strong believer in the fact that you don't necessarily have to work hard to create what you desire. That I believe that following our joys and our passions can manifest a beautiful experience for us. And that I'm a big believer in surrender, allowing and accepting and releasing over efforting. It's just, for me personally, those beliefs around efforting and things have to be really hard to accumulate something good. It doesn't align with what I believe. And so the fact that, there was a part of me that thought, oh, but he probably hasn't worked hard enough to really learn the lesson. Like, I should, even though he has accumulated the money, because that week we sold like 3 more cartons, and he sold something else as well. I can't remember what the other thing was, but essentially that week he had accumulated then up to $400. And yet I wanted to drag out the process for him rather than getting to teach him the lesson that you put in the time and energy, and you gave your time and energy to what was important to you, and look how quickly you have created what you wanted. And not only did you put that time and energy in, but you were trying your best to focus your thoughts and focus your energy in a more positive way to create what you desire. And here I was as like the middleman between him and his desire, saying, oh, he hasn't worked hard enough. He hasn't learned the lesson hard enough. So it makes me laugh quite a bit. And of course, I realized that resistance wasn't in alignment with what I want my children to actually learn and the experiences I want them to have. So I surrendered. And for his birthday, we gave him that voucher, and he got the experience of, on his birthday, getting to go into the shop, getting to buy himself a PlayStation, and also getting to choose one game to go with it. And his brothers bought him a PlayStation controller to go with the PlayStation, because of course it only came with one, and there are games that he would like to play with his brother. So yeah, he got a second one. So that was a really beautiful experience. I really loved that. And like I said, it still makes me laugh thinking about how I tried to add resistance to that experience for him. Now that segues really beautifully into the other kind of topic that I wanted to talk about today, and that is screens and screen time, because it actually has been a big topic for us in our house. As I mentioned already, my son is really into technology, really into screens. I've also tried to curate a lot of his learning so that it can be done with more like technology-based activities. We're doing learning songs via YouTube. We've got the Reading Eggs app. We have a paid subscription to Reading Eggs and Math Seeds, which are great, by the way. And, I'm finding other interactive activities for him to do that are really consolidating the topics that we're learning. Because ultimately, we are going to learn best in ways that we are actually excited about learning and passionate about learning. So it's not just the topics we're learning, but it's also the style of learning that we get to do. And of course, this was the point, right? Like, this is why I want to homeschool as well, that I get to really curate their learning to their passions, their interests, their learning styles. And this is part of it for him. Technology is just a part of something he's interested in, he's passionate about, he loves to explore. And when I say technology, as I mentioned before, it expands beyond just watching TV. From the story that I told, whether it was the baby monitor or the robo vacuum or the printer, like, he's also loved getting on Google Maps, and he loves exploring maps and seeing the distances between places and going to the other countries. And, he had a globe game where he would have to point out countries across the world, and he can absolutely tell you where India is and where Canada is and where France is. And, because they're all delivered to him in a style of learning that he loves and he thrives in. So since, of course, getting this PlayStation, he has really just wanted to play it, of course, right? It's something he's really excited about. And we generally have a rule in our house that they get 25 minutes. We call it 25 minutes because it's 25 minutes, right? So, they don't just get to wake up and do screens or anything like that. But the idea was that we would spend the morning together. And this is even like pre-homeschooling. This was like last year and so on. We would wake up and we would always just spend the morning together, whether it was playing, whether it was like, anything. Maybe we'd go out and do an activity, but we were always together for the morning and just enjoying playing with each other, being in nature, like slow mornings. We'd have our morning tea, we'd just keep doing activities. And then after they had lunch, they would then get 25 minutes each. And that was for them to choose whatever they wanted to watch, of course, within reason. They don't just get free reign to YouTube or anything like that, but it would be their choice. They would get 25 minutes each to just enjoy. And so ultimately that was like, 50 minutes where the two big boys got to have some screen time. And then once their 25 minutes was up, TV goes off and we're back into our afternoon flow. Now, as I said, that 25 minutes doesn't mean that they only have 25 minutes of any screens all day. It's just that they have only that 25 minutes to just kind of watch whatever they want. There would be other things that we would do through the day where there might be a screen involved. So as I said, like now, it's something like we're going to do reading eggs or math seeds. Another one is, and I've mentioned it on the channel before, the directed drawing Art for Kids Hub. So that is not something that I would consider as like them just getting to sit down and watch, right? They wouldn't just sit down and watch directed drawing, but it's an activity that we're doing. On some level, there's an education component. And so that would be something we might do in addition to the 25 minutes. Another great channel, and I don't know if I've mentioned it before in here, is Denny Go. If you don't know Denny Go, it is awesome. We would also sometimes incorporate that, especially on rainy days or in the afternoons when we had a bit of excess energy we need to burn. It's essentially just a bunch of songs that have actions, and you get to do the actions with them, and it's really great. I'll put the link in the description for Denny Go and his YouTube channel. There's obviously no affiliation, but it's just a really, really great channel. The kids love it. So I do recommend you check that out if you are looking for something to do, especially to burn some afternoon energy. But that would be something we might do in addition to the 25 minutes. The other thing that we would do is, for example, through our local library, we're able to get a streaming service called Canopy, and they have a Canopy Kids sections. And essentially on Canopy Kids, they have a bunch of storybooks read aloud. And so often while they were eating lunch, they would get to choose a storybook each to read aloud. They'd also have really great educational based shows like Monster Math Squad and things like that the boys really loved. So again, that was something that they might get to do during their lunchtime, is just get to enjoy their lunch with a storybook of their choice. So it wasn't just that they were having only 25 minutes all day, but it was that every other aspect of their screen time during the day had some sort of intention behind it. Now, those things really worked for us, particularly last year. However, as our situation and circumstances have changed, now that we are homeschooling and we are all together every day, our new normal requires new normals for balance. I still have pretty solid feelings, I guess, about screen time. It's not something I'm a huge fan of. It's not something that I desire to use with my children a lot, particularly as a babysitting tool. It just doesn't feel good for me, doesn't feel in alignment. And I also really notice when the boys have had that odd day where they've gotten a bit too much screen time, their behavior has just really taken a dive in the afternoon. They become really irritable, emotional, grumpy, and the common theme is the excess of screens. So I have my own type of feelings about this, and about how I think screens should be used. And then I'm balancing that with Finn's clear desire to engage technology and screens. And like I said, for instance, at the moment, the PlayStation is the big excitement and the big focus of how he wants to use his time and energy. And I questioned whether, him getting to interact and play a game on the PlayStation is actually better than just watching a TV show. And these are all questions that I'm also like sharing out loud with you now that I don't have the answers to, because the truth is I don't have the answer. It's going to be a constant refining and balancing act where we have to continually adjust to our new normal and to adjust to what our season of life as a family is calling for. And now that our new normal is for us all being at home together and homeschooling, I'm finding that I am treating my time with them, which I feel so grateful for. I'm treating that time the same that I would have treated it when they weren't home every day. So prior to homeschooling, my two eldest boys were in daycare 2 days a week. And now obviously they're not at all. And I'm still putting, I guess, the same level of pressure on myself to really engage with them on a high level that is almost like not necessary now because I'm with them all the time. Like our new normal as a family is being together as a family all the time. And that's not to say that it's not still important for me to be engaging with them, but of course I am every day. But what I'm finding is that in doing so, it's creating just an unequal balance or a disharmonious balance for other areas of our lives, like housework or, my own passions and interests and other things I'm pursuing. And sometimes my relationship with my husband, and it's not that any of those areas are necessarily in lack, but you can see that there is a little bit of disharmony and a desire for recorrecting. And so what I'd been noticing lately was that some days we would absolutely like smash out the school work. I put it in quotations because of course it doesn't always look the same how it's delivered. And so then other days there would be a desire for a quieter day of like, okay, we don't need to do as much schoolwork. And today I really just want to put some time and energy into cleaning the house or put some time and energy into resting and things like that, because I'm with my children all the time, which again is the greatest blessing that I got to choose to be that. And now it's finding the new balance and the new normal for our lives. So we really are just trying to find what works for us right now. And I suppose, moving forward, I can see that if I were to perhaps increase, and this is all trial and error, like I said, like I'm really just spitballing with you guys here, but I feel I'm called to increase structure for Finn, which will allow more freedom ultimately. And what I'm intending is to create really clearly a task list, so to speak, of, okay, here are the tasks that you need to complete today. And it will be a mixture of home tending tasks and self-care tasks and like homeschool tasks. Once that list is completed, like once he has done those activities, he then gets to choose how he spends the remainder of his day. Now, I'm challenged by this because I feel that he's going to choose screen time, obviously, for the remainder of his day. But I guess I was looking at it from the perspective of, okay, if doing these things is something he really enjoys and is his passion and it lights him up and all those things, if he completes everything that I've set out for him, like if he helps out around the house and tends to the home, if he tends to himself and takes care of himself and does all of his schoolwork and all of his learning and all those things, and then he has what you could call free time, or I mean, that, for lack of a better term, free time seems right. He has that. And then he wants to spend it in the way that he thinks is fun, that he desires. And I say, no, for the sake of being like, well, no, you can't do what you enjoy. I know you've completed all these tasks. I know that you've met your requirements, so to speak, but no, you can't do what you want to do. You can't like just, do you know what I mean? Like, and like I said, I really am spitballing with you guys. I'm totally oscillating here between, you know, what is the right balance for us? Because I was finding that, you know, he would ask me certain things like, Mum, can I do X, Y, and Z? Like, so it might have been, well, Mum, can I watch a little bit of TV now because I've done this? And I would just say, oh, look, you know, not right now, later. But I could never give him a definitive answer. And so then he, of course, would, like, if it's something that he's excited about, he would keep asking and pursuing the answer, the clarity that he was seeking. And what that ended up doing was, because I wasn't clear in myself on what my answer was and what my yeses and nos were and what my boundaries are anymore, because like I said, it's all changing for us, I would end up getting quite frustrated, and then I would end up reacting and, you know, getting quite cranky with him, to be honest. And it's not my preference. It's not how I choose to behave and how I like to behave. But it was, I guess, in essence, there was like a disharmony within me because I wasn't clear in myself. And so there was almost like a lack of control of, I don't know what to do. I feel under pressure and then react. So I'm really aware of that. And like I said, it's not exactly who I want to be and it's not how I want to turn up. I'm really having to sit with all these questions that are coming up within me now. And this is truly part of the journey, right? It's being okay to hold space for the not knowing. I don't know what our balance is going to look like. And whilst I might have opinions on excessive screen time, I also believe that there is an importance to doing and following our joy and our passion and following what lights us up. As I said, this isn't just something as simple as, you know, he just loves to watch TV all day. It's that all forms of technology he's interested in. And so on the one hand, I'm looking forward to finding more educational and creative forms of technology for him to engage with. I know that we've been looking at a certain Minecraft option that's quite educational. And on the other hand, am I just creating a barrier around his exploration of technology for him because I feel a type of way about it? And on the other hand, I also need to acknowledge that I have boundaries and I have values for myself and my family, and my husband has values as well, and we get to choose how we allow those to be implemented with our children. So it's just a really big jumble, but I'm definitely going to trial, and I can let you guys know how this goes. I'm going to trial giving Finn some clear structure around what my desires are for the activities that he completes. And once he completes those, he can choose how he spends his time. But I might give him parameters of like, okay, well, part of it can be for this, but part of it needs to be exercise. Part of it needs to be, you know, some, like there was, what did I see the other day? It was every day we must do something for our brain, something for our heart, and something for our body. And so it was kind of essentially saying like, what did you learn? Like, what were you doing for your brain? How were you feeding your brain today? What were you doing for your heart and like connection and love, right? How were you feeding that? And what did you do for your body? Like, how did you move? How did you eat? How did you turn up? So I could include those parameters in that, okay, after this time frame, once you've completed all these activities, you can spend your time how you desire. But I want you to try and incorporate these three things: something for your brain, something for your heart, and something for your body. And we'll see how it goes. As I said, I do notice that when they do have excess screen time, there is a decline in their mood and behavior, but it's just a big learning process for all of us. So I might be reporting back next week and telling you the guys that this was a terrible idea and it was a failure. But this is the point, right? This is the trial and error and the beauty of the freedom and the flexibility that we have chosen here. So feel free to leave a comment about, I'm really interested to hear too, about how you guys find that balance with screens and screen time and technology and all of it. It's something that we're all navigating, like for the first time, right? Growing up as a kid, at least for me, we just didn't have access to the same things that we have access to now, and things just weren't on tap. Like, you didn't have streaming services, so to speak. Like the best you could get was like Foxtel or Ostar, and it wasn't on demand. It was just they were a bit better channels. But now our children have the luxury and the advantage of technology at their fingertips. And we're parenting as parents for the first time with this, and this is their normal. So it really is a journey. There is no right or wrong answer. And as I said, I think it's always about trying to find what works best for you and your family, and acknowledging that whatever that is going to work best during that season. Because if you are truly open to surrender and being present in the moment, then your seasons will change and what works best for you and your family will change. And if you try to hold on to old systems and old structure and stay rigid to that, then ultimately you will suffer, because you will just be in resistance to allowing what is coming through. And as I told you, ultimately what I've discerned is what is happening is not quite working for us in our family anymore. And so we're trying to find our new balance now. And this tests me, this topic, because as I said, I have my own feelings about screen times, and I guess I'm projecting those onto my children and perhaps not acknowledging where Finn could truly thrive if given the tools and the right type of activity through screens. It's a full balancing act. But I also feel like I will be a lot happier too having that clear structure, because as I said, one of these sources of disharmony was that I felt unclear in myself what my yeses and what my nos were. And so I couldn't deliver to him a clear yes and a clear no, and constantly being pushed to give an answer where I didn't feel clear. It was just really overwhelming. So I'm looking forward to creating more structure and just going with the flow and trialing that and see how it goes. But I will report back to you, and I'm absolutely open to this being a discussion. If you have any suggestions or tips or just input on what works for you and your family, or even just maybe you're in the same boat as me. Maybe you haven't found your balance yet and you haven't found the right formula of what works for us. Comment, let me know, because I would love to have a conversation with you. It really does add so much more value to my experience being on here and recording these when I get to engage with the people that are watching it. So if you are enjoying them, like the videos. If you want to engage, comment, because I would love to hear from you. And of course, if you want to be kept up to date, please subscribe, because I can't wait to continue to share these videos with you, and even just your update for next week about how this whole trial and error thing went. Otherwise, I'm sending you all my love, and I'll see you next time. Bye.